Dear guests, the next panel discussion is Security versus Defense, the Militarization of Europe. Please take your seat while our speakers prepare for the panel.
So, good morning to all. Nice to see you, and thank you for being here. I'm Constantinos Hadjisavvas. I'm the honor to be the moderator of this panel. I'm the director of Digital Resilience and Defense at Digital Europe and Senior Research Fellow at the École de Ponts Business School in Paris. So today we will address a very important topic, security versus defense, militarization of Europe. And the best people to address this topic are here, the panelists, which I would like to warmly welcome. His Excellency, the Ambassador of Poland to Cyprus, Mr. Marek Szczepanowski. Panayiotis, Dr. Panayiotis Hadjipavlis from the Ministry of Defense, Director at the Defense. And of course, Marek Obremski, Program Manager, Tomasz Obremski, Program Manager at the Warsaw Security Forum, and the Casimir Pulaski Foundation. Sorry for my pronunciation. So, I will use my privilege as a moderator to share some reflections, and then we will start with fire chat questions. And what I would like to say that today, the topic that we will address is simple to ask, but I think it's complicated to answer. And I say this because we need to discuss how far Europe should go when it comes to militarizing its security landscape. And I think we are all witnessing with the shift in our security landscape, you know, the cyber attacks, the challenges to our energy security, to our maritime routes. All of this creates the society sometimes to distrust the governmental authorities. And let's reflect a bit also the ongoing Russian-Ukraine war, the Middle East uncertainties, and shall we justify the militarization of Europe? And if yes, how deep it can go? And then I want to also share 3 figures just to see how we spend the money, if it makes sense, how do we collaborate, and of course, how deep society can accept these things. For instance, the European Union runs around 178 different defense systems, whereas the United States only 33. So you can see the challenge when it comes to fragmentation. Then another figure, 78% of the EU defense procurement goes to non-European providers. So there, the question of dependency. And then the last figure I want to share is 70% of the European cloud market is controlled by non-Europeans. Then there is the question of how resilient we are. So even Europe spends more on defense. The question now here is, are we building resilience and security, or are we just increasing our dependency? So I will jump directly now to the panel, and let me share a few guidelines about how we plan to do this discussion. I propose to do a fire chat, so I will raise 3 questions for 3 rounds. You will have 2 minutes to respond, so try to be precise. And then we open the floor for your reflections. And then at the very end, I will invite the 3 panelists to share one key takeaway that they would like the audience to leave this room and remember of your intervention. So I start with Panayiotis. So Panayiotis, Cyprus faces, like other countries, both traditional threats, but also combination of hybrid challenges. Where do you think is the balance between security, meaning protecting society, infrastructure, and defense in its traditional term, hard power and deterrence?
Firstly, allow me to thank the Cyprus Forum for the invitation. Thank you, Constantine, for being a moderator of this panel. and thank you for the question. Allow me just to say to share some thoughts as regards militarization and securitization. I don't agree with the terms as regards Europe. I mean, there is no militarization in Europe. Of course, there is a ramping up of armaments and increasing of our production in armaments and acquisition. However, as Europe actually was far behind acquisition of armaments some decades ago, we can say only that we walk for a very long lethargy that bothered us. And as we, in Europe, we had this naive opinion that peace is everywhere and is eternal. Unfortunately, Europe woke up after the Crimea, after crisis, and then the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. However, the signs were there. Some actually forget that we had in the heart of Europe a war in ex-Yugoslavia, and of course we have to always have in mind the occupation of Cyprus by Turkey. So these are signs that we have to take them into consideration and have in our minds. Of course, defense is a part of security. And without defense and security, we cannot actually function as societies. Just being here discussing, or in the afternoon having coffee with a friend, going to the university or to the school, this means that we need security. Without security, we cannot do anything. Defense, of course, is part, as I said, of security, and with defense we have to protect our values, our existence as states and nations. So these two, let's say, terms, they are part of our everyday life, and we have to be very frank when we are discussing security and defense, because without them, as I said before, we cannot function.
Thank you, Panayiotis. I will come a bit later to challenge you a bit more. But Ambassador, recently you have successfully concluded the presidency of the Council of the EU. Congratulations. So would you like to share with us some concrete results that they help to shape what we call today European defense readiness? And do you think you contributed to more militarization or more security?
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. I'm very honored to participate as a panelist in the Cyprus Forum, which I know very well, and I had this occasion to attend the other editions the year and 2 years ago. Thank you very much also for this, that you placed me in such a splendid company together with a fantastic audience. Answering your question, I just wanted to say thank you very much for this question particularly, because this is a question which shows a very close link to Cyprus, because we are in the same trio of the presidency. So we've just completed, after this first half of this year, our presidency, which was strictly oriented on security, as you mentioned, but you know, it was taken over by Denmark, and we have the same or very similar priorities of our trio together with Cyprus. So we will also support Cyprus in the continuation of all of this work which we have continued before, but also some projects and initiatives which we have initiated. First of all, we took over our presidency in a very turbulent period. Not mentioning, of course, the aggression on ongoing war in Ukraine after the aggression of Russia. There were problems with this. That was unstable situation in the Middle East. There were permanent problems with the migration. It was instrumentalization of the migration. There were other factors and phenomena which are typical for the hybrid wars. This is a disinformation, a lot of different aspects of the security which we had to face, in which European Union and member countries have to operate and have to prepare any solutions. So first of all, we decided to concentrate on generally on the security under the slogan Security Europe, and diversified the different dimensions of the security. So we know that to tackle the problems in a serious way, so we have to diversify this. They have to identify problems on each sphere of the security. So we decided to concentrate to distinguish the external, internal, economic, information, food, and health security. All of this complex issue of security consists of all of these different dimensions. I think this what you are asking now for the defense, and for this what we have achieved in the term of the security and defense can be answered as by presenting quite very important initiatives and projects which were launched during our presidency. First of all, we have all of this project, which I will be talking about, they refer to this external dimension of the security, which is mostly linked to the military capabilities and defense. First of all, we initiated and successfully adopted the security action for Europe. This is the regulation, which is called in abbreviation SAFE, and refers to the implementation of the white paper on defense readiness and the Rearming Europe plan, which are the main two, let's say, documents which are creating the environment of the theoretical environment in which direction the strategy of increasing of European security goes. As you know, this package of SAFE is one of the, I think that's it's a loan package for the defense industry, which I think is the breakthrough in the history of such kind of financial facilities, which are available in the European institutions. Why? Because there is the allocation of the 150 billion euros for all European Union countries, and the particular and what is very particular in this situation, that they allow that this instrument SAFE allows all member countries to participate in this program through requesting loans for the revitalization and for the development of the defense industry in Poland, in European Union. As we know, for the decades, we were living a little bit when enjoying this, very nice mood, and we were living in mood and in a comfort zone. In a comfort zone, which was created, of course, by such solutions which refer to the formation, the foundation of the political and international order, which was established after the World War II by foundation of the United Nations, and by the signing of all of the actors and members of the international society of the UN Charter. We were, for these decades, we were constantly losing our, let's say, awareness of the necessity that we have to be prepared for any difficult situation. Now, after the aggression of Russia against Ukraine, we realized that this situation changed dramatically. So we have to be prepared for the further development of the situation. And the European Union shows us how to do this, and is the one institution which can allocate money and provide us with the institutional solutions to ramp up these activities and to accelerate our activities. On the other spheres of this security dimensions which I listed before, we have also the competitiveness of the European economies. This is also a very important issue which refers to the security of the European economies, or to the security of the European companies and members of the industry sectors. So we decided to implement so-called omnibus packages, which facilitate and which allows to participate on the international market of the European companies in a much more comfortable and much more flexible way as it was before, because they were all dominated and by the rules of the competitiveness and rules of the legal procedures which were implemented in European Union and referred directly to their activities also out of the European Union on the international markets. I think there's, of course, there are also other examples, but I think I would like to just ending this in this part of my speech to mention one, which refers directly to the protection of the democracy in European Union countries. We prepared and implemented the document which is called the Democracy Shield. The basis of this document consists on the preparation of this European society to the implementing of some measures of legal measures which will protect the democracy mechanism in a democratic society. It refers to the to such activities of the European institutions which will allow people, which will eliminate the possibilities of the foreign interference in a democratic procedures, like elections, for example, avoiding the impression that something is prohibited or the democracy standards are violated. So we know that there is a big discussion which refers to this issue, mostly in this way: how far can the democratic protection institutions react and act to counteract any foreign interference and disinformation in democratic procedures which are carried out in European Union countries. There is a big discussion, because if we want to launch any institutional solution, we have to face the criticism, the authorities, that we are trying to limit the freedom of expression, the freedom of free speech. So it has to be tackled with a serious and very flexible approach. And this document shows the ways how to do this to protect this kind of the security.
Thank you, Ambassador. Of course, you open so many topics, but we will come later if we have time. Tomasz, the Ambassador mentioned a lot of instruments. For instance, the SAFE regulation, security action for Europe, 115 billion euros that will go to the market. We know that the European Competitiveness Fund is earmarked 131 billion euros. So do you think all of these actions, they are moving more to militarization, and at the very end is society, the taxpayers will pay? So what do you think about this?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for inviting me to Cyprus Forum. I'm very happy to be here. To answer the first questions that you asked at the beginning of the panel, how far we should go, we should just go far enough. We didn't go far enough before 2022, enjoying our peace dividend, and now we have war at the European continent. If we're not going to far enough again, by the end of the decade, we're going to have a war at the EU member states' territories. So I think it's better to go too far rather than not far enough. Poland's understand that. We spend currently over 5% of our GDP for defense. Poland society accept that. There are some politicians that are saying that maybe it should be 3.5 or 4, but this is marginal, and Polish society understands its history, its geographical locations, that it's one of the most complicated geopolitically speaking neighborhood on the planet Earth, but it does come with the costs. Polish credit score has already been downgraded this year because of struggle to sustain the social benefits spending together with the defense spending. Overall, Poland has only 60% of the deficit to GDP. France, for example, has twice more. But if you are going into deficit, you should invest something that creates actually value to the economy, that later will contribute to the growth. Transfers and defense expenditures are not such expenditures. Tanks are meant to destroy, not create the value. We are currently procuring, I'm saying only procuring, not already having, we are procuring more tanks than Italy, France, and UK have combined. Those are absolutely ridiculous numbers, hard to imagine, and I think some frustration may actually arise among the society because we are already struggling to sustain the social benefits, and we are not even talking about expanding them. And for a country as Poland with pretty moderate Gini index, this can lead to some frustration that the economic growth will not be democratic enough, and I'm afraid that sooner or later we will see some frustration among the people, because every billion euros spent on defense is billion euros less spent on hospitals, education, and infrastructure. And Poland has made enormous progress for the last 30 years, but there is still a lot of infrastructure investment, infrastructure gap that we have to cover. But we have to do that because our neighbor is also choosing this. I can feel only pity for the Russian people that its country is choosing this path, that instead of investing like, for example, Middle Eastern countries that are also not democracies, investing the revenues for hydrocarbons into more democratic way towards highways, towards hospital. Whoever was in the Middle East, you can relate how infrastructurally developed those countries are. It's a pity that they are only the Russian only competitive advantage see the world as a negative sum game, and their only competitive advantage is to destroy it rather than to create the value. And Polish society also supports this because we feel the threat. Just 2.5 weeks ago, Chopin Airport was closed for 2 hours. I came here from Chopin Airport, so people start to wonder whether my flight for holiday will take off. Also, Lubin and Rzeszów airports were closed more repetitively, as long as Copenhagen, Aalborg. In Denmark, all countries in the eastern flank face that. And I don't know to what extent are you discussing it among yourself in Cyprus, but all my friends, I literally mean all my friends that I speak about that with, have something we called emergency backpack, where we have health emergency kit, where we have a power bank. Everybody is having car tank at least half full. We have bottled water for a week. This is the times we are having right now in Poland. This is something we are getting ready for. You don't see that much of foreign investment in the eastern and northern Poland when potential confrontation takes place. So as long as this understanding in the society exists, as long the support for the high expenditure will be, but the further to the west you are, the feel of the threat is dropping, and I'm afraid with the slow economic growth, with economic stagnation, with high deficit, with populism taking Western countries to turn inward, I'm afraid that more countries will not necessarily follow the eastern flank lead to reach the Hague promise of 5% of the GDP. So let's see where we go from now. But for now, Poland supports and Polish people supports high expenditure so far.
It's very interesting the fact that in different regions you have understanding of how threats affect the society, the territory. For instance, if you speak someone from France, Italy, or Scandinavian countries, they understand it. But we will talk about the narratives later on. As we have some time limitations, what I would like to do is to ask you one more question, but you need to limit your answer only in 1 minute, because we will open the floor. So it's a big challenge. You will need to use your skills. I want to start with, yes, you will assess if they are successful or not. We will open the floor. Yes, okay.
To the ambassador. I'm from Berlin, from the SWP, and we are talking about in Germany, but also in our think tank, we are talking about increasing new security architecture in Europe. So what is the position in Poland, and what's the position, if there is any clear position of your government or the position of Poland regarding security architecture in Europe, which is not identical with NATO, or which is also left US outside of this architecture? It would be interesting for me.
So thank you very much for this interesting question. First of all, the NATO remains the most concrete and most important fundamental basis of the security in a transatlantic edition in Europe, in this transatlantic dimension. Of course, the European Union has a particular role in this security dimension, because the bulk of countries which are members of NATO are also members of the European Union. And the NATO is as strong as its members are. If we have the majority of countries which are the members of European Union, it means there also, by assuming the responsibilities for the security by Europe, so European Union has its particular role to develop the capabilities of the countries, and has all instrumental, financial, procedural tools to facilitate the development of this security and defense resilience of the current of the European Union members countries. There is no other way how to operate with this issue, better way, most easy way to operate with this issue than by the involvement of the European Union. That's why we, on one hand, we are very interested from the Polish, of course I'm presenting this from the Polish point of view, in the presence of the NATO forces, and in the increasing of the NATO presence of NATO soldiers, of NATO equipment on the eastern flank of NATO. But at the same time, we are not omitting, the role of the European Union countries with treaties that's complementary rather than competitive towards NATO. And this is the basis of our approach towards the role of European Union in the NATO, in the structure of the complex security of the transatlantic cooperation.
Thank you, Ambassador. I see there is mood for questions, so change of plans. we adopt, so please, can you say briefly who you are? And kindly keep your questions 30 seconds and the answers 1 minute maximum, because we will not be able to have a nice discussion.
Thank you very much. I hope I can do 30 seconds, but maybe a little bit more. I'm Oksana Antonenko. I'm a professor at the UI in Florence, and I want to congratulate, of course, Poland on wonderful presidency. I've been there at the time when the white paper was presented. It was really amazing work that you've done. But what I want to really address my question to to Cyprus, to the officials in Cyprus, and really thinking about what Cyprus and its particular situation, role, and experience can contribute to the continuation of this Troika process. And it seems to be that one thing which is still missing at the moment from this European security initiative is the idea of the escalation management and putting the guardrails for de-risking. You know, we have destroyed the entire infrastructure of confrontation which existed during the Cold War. There's no more Vienna document, no CFE treaty. There's no more anything which can prevent the incidents from escalation. And so far, that has not been put on the agenda for obvious reasons, because escalation is happening one way. But we need to, at some point, sit down and think seriously how we can start this process. And it seems to be that Cyprus is a perfect position to address this issue. So just wanted to ask your feedback on that.
Thank you very much for this question. Of course, we are going to continue what has been done from the previous presidencies, Poland and Denmark. We agreed the agenda. Defense, of course, is number one priority. We continue this. However, we have some other issues that we have to stress from our point of view. So we don't want to be monothematic, and I have to explain myself. In Europe and European Union, there is no only one threat. Of course, there is the threat of Russia. Of course, we understand, and we understand what our partners feel when the Russia sends UAVs over their airspace. However, the threats are everywhere. We are speaking about hybrid threats. We are speaking about asymmetric threats. We are speaking about the instability in the Middle East, Near East, and North Africa and Africa. And these are potential threats that they are going to affect not only the border countries, but the whole European Union and Europe. So we have to be a little bit insightful and not myopic. We have to re-examine our assessments as regards the horizon scanning and future threats, and build our, let's say, security, societal security, Mr. Ambassador, as you well described before, and defense according to these new emergent threats. This is a new point that Cyprus will raise and will bring on the table for discussion in the European Union, being in this volatile area and understanding exactly the dynamics, the political and power dynamics of this area. Of course, as you implied, we are very, we know very well the crisis, how to do crisis management, being in this area. We suffer ourselves from an occupation, and every day, even the persons here and the citizens of this country, they don't actually actively understand this, but they every day do a crisis management in their lives. Okay, so of course we are going to offer our knowledge in this regard to the European Union, and we are going to add to the whole security architecture of the European Union for the future.
Thank you, Panayiotis. I will get one more question, and then we will conclude because of time constraints. Be prepared. We are not good with the times, so but be prepared in 1 minute to say one key takeaway. So.
Okay, thanks. I want to ask the ambassador of Poland, because he said that NATO is the major force for defense in Europe, and exactly this is, but I'm afraid that in the next years Europe will be alone. Do we have a replacement for this to present? What about homeland security? Thank you.
Mr. Manager wanted also to participate in my answer, in the answer of these questions. But so before I convey also the mic to him, I just wanted to share. Of course, again, it refers to this what I said before in this question. This is. Let us be clear. Once again, the NATO has this fundamental role in the guarantees for the stability and transatlantic relationship in our security. European Union and Europe has a role in this process of the increasing of the resilience of our countries. Both of these roles, they don't counteract. They can be treated with the same attention and in the same way. Roles of Europe in this situation is to develop our capabilities. If we have developed capabilities, if we have created connections between the European Union countries, also between these which are not members of NATO, like Cyprus, it increases our level of stability. It increases our level of security. That's why we participate together with Mr. Director in these common programs, which were launched during the Polish presidency. There were more than €1 billion allocated for Cyprus, more than €40 billion for Poland. But we are looking for the same areas and to participate jointly in this project. All because we are deeply convinced that this common participation from countries which are already members of NATO or are not already or trying to be neutral in this very demanding international environment, the best solution for being and feel secure and feel safe is to collaborate. That's I think the core of the answer of this question. And before I convey the.
Yeah, I want to jump in that the EU will never substitute NATO. We don't want, this American-style issue of well-functioning military framework to be replaced by EU bureaucracy. This is the worst idea we can have for emergency crisis. But that being said, NATO to remain transatlantic will have to become more European, and there is a very important role of the EU in that. Of course, NATO defends and deters, but EU sanctions and funds, and also countries that are not members of NATO can be benefiting of that. I'm hearing that Poland and Cyprus are cooperating on the SAFE instrument, so this European production machine will also benefit not NATO countries. However, the framework for deterrence and defense should remain there. We can also see that with Article 47.2 of the Treaty of the European Union, which is like mirroring Article 5. They are basically complementary, not because one defines aggression, one defines attack, and I think EU is better equipped with its legal framework and determination to actually counter our adversaries right now to respond to hybrid threats that are way below Article 5 of NATO. And we can see that the United States, after the incursion of NATO 2.5 weeks to Poland, it's European allies that responded immediately. Finland, Dutch, Italian jet fighters were involved, and from America we heard deaf silence. I'm sure Americans will come in once the things get nasty, but for those hybrid, for the hybrid warfare, for the hybrid war we are already facing, let's call it a war, because this is not a war we imposed on Russia. Russia imposed this war on us. Emmanuel Macron already said that we are on the confrontation stage with Russia. But if we can win this war before the real war erupts, I'm sure that by helping Ukraine, but by staying resilient to the hybrid threats, we can avoid kinetic conflict in a few years. And that was actually one of the themes of Warsaw Security Forum. But I just wanted to jump here to say that, of course, this relation between EU and NATO is sometimes complicated, but two play a very significant role and will remain significant in the European theater.
So what I understand now, we are discussing security versus defense, the audience wants another panel, NATO versus EU, strategic autonomy, and all of this, which is a very interesting topic, to be honest. We need to develop our concept on a different level, because when the Lisbon Treaty, for instance, was established and adopted, was 2009. We are 2026. The nature of the war has changed. I will give you the floor, but before that, I want to share, for instance, coming from the Ukrainian battlefield, the main lesson learned there is that traditional defense systems cannot win the war. So tanks, ships are important, no question. But alone, they cannot win the war. What it will help to win the war is robotic dogs, is satellite, secure connectivity. Imagine yourself one day not talking with your mom or with your daughter and etc. You'll get crazy. Imagine the soldier in the battlefield with no connection, no eyes, what is happening? So this is important questions, and this is to place and to give you the floor now for one key takeaway, 1 minute hopefully, and to tell us what do you think when we are talking militarization? Is it a process that we need to increase our security or polarize our societies? So I will start with Tomasz, then Panayiotis, and then the ambassador.
Polarize?
So you tell me your reflections. What do you think? What we are talking now about this militarization process, is it a narrative to find excuse to increase our military footprint, our military power? Or is it real because we have a real threat and we need to secure and protect our homeland, our society, our values, and so on?
I mean, there is no confusion, I hope, in the continent that we are facing existential threat to the existence of the EU, of the eastern flank. So the threat is real. The society understands us. Of course, there is a question what we're gonna do once the conflict is gone, but I don't see a way for ending of this conflict, even if there is some kind of a settlement, ceasefire. I think it will be just a strategic break, and the Russian war machine will sooner or later be ready again to strike. I think being here in Cyprus is really matters to watch this conflict closely, because this is basically one powerful big neighbor bullying smaller country that is trying to defend itself with the help of the allies for last 3 years. Should it fail, should Kyiv collapse, it will send very bad signal to the entire world. So that's why the stakes of this conflict are global, not regional. And the message for the middle and small countries will be terrifying, because it means that the borders can be easily moved by force if imposed by more powerful neighbors.
So, thank you, Constantinos. You asked for a key point for everyone to take after leaving from here. I will not say something new, but I will remind everyone what our ancestors said, and I will just repeat our Roman ancestors: civic pacem para bellum. If you need peace, you have to be prepared for war. So, and this is existential. So defense is for deterrence. It's not for making war. We have to understand this. Means if we need security, we have to be prepared for deterrence. This is how word actually functions. And just to proceed a little bit and say some words about my country, Cyprus, what we kindly ask for our partners is, of course, solidarity and common understanding and inclusiveness. So these three principles are principles, values of the European Union, and we have to secure, protect, and safeguard them. Thank you very much.
So last word from the ambassador, and we
Thank you very much. It was this aphorism, this very old aphorism of prepare for war, if you want peace, prepare for war. So I want to just use in my comments, but thank you very much for this. Let me just share with you the maybe 2 lessons which we have learned after this first period of this completely different situation which we are now facing for the last 3 years. We've been facing here in Rome. First, the unity matters. The unity matters. As long as we are united, as we can react jointly, we can feel much more secure. We can feel much more safety against all the threats. And the another one is never ever give up to present your own opinions and threats and share this with the other partners. Particularly if we are in a such company, if we are in such family like as a European Union. You have to present and share all your threats all the time. We've been doing this for the decades. We were not particularly and we were not efficiently heard by some our counterparts from the Western countries, because we were warning for years that Russia could create the threats for the European stability and peace. Of course, there were different, reluctant approach towards our threats. Finally, our scenario started to be carried out. Of course, we have this kind of bitter satisfaction from this, but we would have preferred not having this. But I'm referring this directly to this what sometimes you are afraid about, that maybe sometimes we are presenting too much, we are concentrating on one issue, we are presenting you for years the threats which we've been identifying, and nobody understands us. It doesn't work like this. You have to still keep your opinions, your approach to some threats and things on the same level. Doesn't matter. It creates any ridiculous approach on the others. It creates any praise that you are becoming more philophobic against something. It doesn't. Finally, you will benefit. It will pay off. It will pay off because you have to share with us in a family, your threats. That's how the European Union works. If there is a European Union which can't protect their own members, what kind of European Union is? What kind of family is this? What kind of union is this? It was proven by delivery recently. Then when you reacted in a very jointly way towards some threats like a violation of the Polish airspace, it works.
Thank you, President. I think it was a very good summary, so I will not conclude. Unity, solidarity. Congratulations to the Cyprus Forum for enabling this discussion, and I would like you to join me in applauding our excellent panel.